We're going live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host. And as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. Having a good week, Seth?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, let's finish it strong because we have a lot to discuss. All right, I'm launching this shared screen for the Electrek, but the StreamYard is having issues last few weeks, so we're gonna just test it out real quick. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But obviously, the Tesla shareholder meeting, annual shareholder meeting, or cyber roundup, whatever you want to call it nowadays, was this week, and it was a productive one in terms of like news. Like there was a lot of interesting news that came out of it. So we're gonna jump right into that. We're gonna start by sort of the only interesting official part of the meeting because there's that's not fun. It's doing that again. So yeah, the first part of the meeting is like the boring official one, the official items that people have to vote on this year. There was not that many controversial ones like the shareholders coming in. There was obviously the one about child labor that came out like a few times. We can get into that. That was because Elon did comment on it and it was interesting, but I think it's an issue that has been like badly reported on for a while. But anyway, the biggest one, according probably to most shareholder, was the JB Straubel being introduced to the board for the first time, and without any surprise, he was voted with a majority of shareholders voting for him to join the board. So JB Straubel is officially back at Tesla in a non-executive role on the board of directors. We'll see if he's going to join any kind of committee on the board or something like that, but I would probably think not, if it's my guess. Because
do you think this puts him into any kind of succession planning?
all right, sorry about that. Am I back on?
Yeah, I rebooted myself. I don't know if it was you or me.
No, but for me, I don't know what happened, but I just saw that I was on my Starlink instead of my cable. So maybe that was.
Oh, you're on
me.
Starlink.
Yeah, I was unknowingly. I thought I switched everything back to my cable because I had a problem earlier this week where they told me that my internet's gonna be down for 3 days because someone stole a cable, like optic cable somewhere in town, and like a big part of town didn't have any internet for like 3 days. They said, well, I called them and that's what they told me like right away. So I'm like, perfect. It's a perfect situation to use my Starlink. So I started up, and because I have all the hardware already, I just don't pay for the monthly subscription. So I had to pay for 1 month just for 3 days, but I thought it was worth it just to work on the internet all the time. So it's worth paying $200. And then it was back up within like a few hours.
They told you 3 days, but it was only a few hours.
Yeah, and then I had to switch everything back up on my Wi-Fi to everything back to my cable fiber optic Wi-Fi. If everything should be good right now, I would assume. But yeah, JB, what we're saying about JB is that we are all big fan of JB's here at Electrek. We think he's obviously one of the most knowledgeable person when it comes to electric powertrains, power electronics, batteries, and all that. Like he's proven that times and times again. And he's a very good communicator of the importance of electric vehicles, or at least early on he was. Like now, I think it's less so important for the majority of the market. Like believe that it is the future. But what is interesting too is like maybe this we know that Elon has talked about the potential successor at Tesla at one point, and JB is obviously probably the most competent one that you can have at this point. He's know Tesla very well. He's led himself another big company now in Redwood Materials is pretty massive in itself now, and he's a bit younger than Elon, so in terms of longevity, that could help too. So yeah, everything is looking good on that front. I'm not saying that it is what is gonna happen, but it's a possibility, I think.
I was also thinking about that. but it's not usual. It's not a usual thing to make a board member the CEO
You're
in
right.
a succession. So maybe there's more to
But
that.
I mean, it's new that he's a board member. He used to be an
Right.
executive at the company for a long time and a co-founder. So
Right.
yeah. All right. Then the other. Well, let's talk about the other item too that was interesting from the official part is that this group of environmentalists pushing for Tesla to do an audit of its supply chain to ensure that there's no child labor in it, which is obviously it was actually shut it down, which it always feels bad. Like, all right, we're gonna shut down this request to make sure that we don't have any child labor in the supply chain. But obviously, it's because it's the implication that it has that they shut it down. But they are already also the fact that they are already doing it. No one wants child labor in the supply chain. I think that much is obvious. The target obviously is cobalt, and especially cobalt in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it does happen. There is child labor going on right now in the cobalt supply chain in Congo. And obviously, no one wants to see that. No one wants that to happen. It's not a good thing. But the problem with it is like, see, what is the solution, and what is the solution that a company that use that material like Tesla and Apple and Elon was kind of a bit dismissing on that. It was like, yeah, we use a little bit of cobalt, like go after Apple and cell phone makers, because yeah, it's true that the percentage of cobalt in a personal electronic batteries is much higher than in an electric car, especially Tesla electric cars. That's just true. But at the same time, I think in terms of overall volume, I think that might be a bit different. But anyway, no one wants to see any kind of child labor. The problem is like, how much power does Tesla, Apple, and all these companies have in that? Because you don't want to just shut down. You can say, okay, like just stop buying from companies that utilize that. It's not as simple as companies utilizing child labor. Like there's no Tesla, Apple directly making business with those. It's more artisanal minds that are using child labor. And not just child labor that is bad, by the way, is they are terrible working condition, and it's not just the children that are suffering, it's the adults working there and all that. It's all terrible in those artisanal mines. So you cannot. So the idea is like these mines that are not the big one operated by massive companies for the most part, as far as I can tell, they are these small artisanal mines, and it's more of the value of the mineral in this case that is pushing those to sprung up in the DRC, which is rich in cobalt. And so the other idea is like, all right, let's shut down those mines, but that would actually help the other companies that are not using that, and that would make sense. But would it help the people that are working at those mines? Not really. Like you would just take a bad situation for them and just make it a worse situation, like just not having any income at all. So it's more of an issue of like education, and because those kids also are working the mines, they're not going at school and all that. So it's a much bigger societal and education problem that needs to happen in the DRC. So if anything, like it's not about like auditing your supply chain. It would be, if Tesla and Apple and all these big companies want to help, it would be more like a direct investment in those regions to educate the people that there are better ways to do these things and all that. I think that would be the solution. But so after the proposal was put forward, was shut down, someone else asked the question in the question and answer part of the presentation, and Elon announced like, yes, we're gonna do an audit and all that. And then he specifically said, we're gonna put a webcam on the mine, and anyone's gonna be able to look online and make sure there's no child labor there. And you know what? No one's gonna see any child labor, because those mines where those webcam are gonna be like full on, like high level operational mines, where it's not like it's using machinery and all that. It's not going to be hand picked. Well, maybe some hand picked in some cases, but it's not the same thing. Like there's people have a very distorted view of what they think is happening with cobalt. And it's sad, because there is, again, I'm not saying that there's no child labor, there is. So it's just that but because of this distorted view, we're not really addressing the real problem. That's my point.
Yeah.
All right.
So I mean, the problem is that it goes into the general, like there's just a cobalt
Market
raw materials, and
Yeah.
you can't keep artisanal minds from going in and middlemen happening. So it's not possible to make it 100% child labor free or bad practice free. But I guess this is a good sort of solution.
I mean, like I said, I think the only real solution would be like a massive investment into education in those regions where it does happen, and support for the families that do send their children there, so they don't have to do that.
Right.
And that's about it. And then maybe introducing some more some infrastructure around the mines that could be actually productive in those regions, and then hire those parents instead and send the kids to school. But all that, that's also like a cultural issue, like a societal issue. Like there's a different levels to this that needs to be fixed in order for that to happen. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as putting a webcam on a mine, that's for sure.
Right.
All right. Then just before the Q&A section, probably the biggest news that came out of the event is these few comments that Elon made about the next generation platform that's going to launch 2 cars, he said, at first. And he unveiled the image of one of those, a silhouette, this picture right here of one of those cars, which we are assuming, that it is most likely this like Tesla Model 2 or Tesla $25,000 car, or whatever people are using these names, but they are unofficial names, obviously. And it's this cheaper, likely hatchback, designed in China, likely built in China too. That is going to come. So this is the first like silhouette. Maybe it's the silhouette even of the little Mazda prototype that we saw a few months ago.
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
like the seemingly Tesla prototype built on a Mazda. Obviously not the same silhouette, but that was probably just a test mule type of vehicle, if it was truly a Tesla prototype.
Yeah, and a lot of commenters saying that this looks like a Model 3. Well, yeah, it does.
Yeah, without any kind of reference point, like it's probably like shorter than a Model 3. It's probably like similar, yes, overall like design shape and all that. But like it's weird. Like the cutoff here is strange. And like you said, like you ran it through some contrast thing, and like it shows that it's clearly a render and not a picture that's been obscured. So it's not even a silhouette really. It's kind of it's just kind of like lights hitting a car in a weird way, because the cutoff, I'm not even sure if it's.
But we do know it's going to be a sedan. I mean, I guess that's kind of the big news, right? It's not going to be like a hot hatchback, which frankly I was kind of hoping for.
Man, I mean, it could still be a hatch at least, like not like a Model 3 with a trunk, but
right.
an hatch. But it's not like the usual shape. It's hard to see the shape of a hatchback from this picture, if that's what you're saying. Yeah, I understand. Elon made some interesting comment on it. He said, first of all, it's not being designed, it's being built right now, which is an interesting comment to make, because if you say it's being built, it would mean like normally it would mean like it's in production already, which I would seriously doubt. We kind of would have heard of it by this point, but unless he's like, there's a prototype being built, that might be what he meant. But for a guy that always says like, oh, prototyping is so easy, it's production, it's hard, it would be weird for him to use that specific language. Then the other thing he said is like these 2 next vehicle coming on the next generation platform, which we assume is this car, the $25,000 Model 2, whatever, and the robotaxi, those 2 built on the new generation. He said those are like 5 million units a year put together, which would make sense. I mean, the Roadster, not the Roadster. We'll get to the Roadster. The Model Y is already like over 1 million units. And so a cheaper hatch vehicle with an hatch would easily make a few million, and then the robotaxi, obviously, if it is an all electric vehicle and it's aimed at a ride sharing service, it's 5 million minimum. Like it could be a lot more than that, but obviously that's if everything works. And we know when it comes to Tesla and self-driving, it's everything works is not a term often used. All right, Roadster. There was a question about the Roadster from a member, and You could see the, like, obviously this is a Tesla shareholder that asked the question, and you could see the guy like feeling bad about even asking the question. Like he's like, oh, like I don't want, like everyone feels bad. Like we feel bad about it. Electrek asking anything about the Roadster, obviously, because we are supposedly have some free ones coming and everything. So it's sounds self-serving, but just from the mission standpoint, obviously is the biggest issue. Like it's not a big mover for Tesla in terms of volumes. So in terms of the mission, it's not a big contributor. But at the same time, they did unveil it and they did start taking reservation for it. It did arguably save the company in 2019, where Tesla was having issues selling the Model 3 for a bit when it was ramping up and all that, 2018, 2019. And the program literally like using it to for the referrals arguably saved Tesla. So there's an argument for it to be made. And then Elon was nice about it. He said, like, it's a completely fair question, like, which I would agree with that. And then he said that the design and engineering would be completed this year. And hopefully, and he said this is not a promise, hopefully it goes in production next year in 2024. And obviously he said that before several times. I think it's like 4 or 5 years late at this point. So I'm not taking this to the bank just
Also,
yet.
when Elon says, like, don't quote me on this, because
Yeah.
he will say pretty much anything. And when he says don't quote me on it, that means there's zero plans.
He means it.
Yeah. There's like no intention of building that next year. Like zero.
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time too, like Tesla had the greatest excuse, like we're basically like on the verge of like going under if we don't ramp up profitably and everything. But now they don't have that excuse, at least. So it's more now spending their resources where it's most valued, and right now it's a Cybertruck. But we'll get to that too, because the Cybertruck. And he didn't say any more information other than reiterated that the SpaceX package, and if you remember, the SpaceX package is those cold air thrusters, that this is still planned, and it's going to be sick. That's an exact quote.
Even the inflection was good there.
Yeah. All right, so the Cybertruck, there was no real significant news coming out other than the production volume estimate coming out of the meeting. So he still said later this year, which the most recent information was production this summer, delivery event in end of Q3, so around end of September. And now he was asked about the production volume capacity that Tesla planned for it. And the audience said, yeah, it's going to be an S curve, so slow at first, ramping up and all that. And so he said, I guess we will see what the demand is, but we are likely to make 250 a year, maybe more. And then he added maybe 250 to 500,000 a year. So 500,000 a year, I think that was like the minimum that a lot of people were thinking about, because just pickup truck wise, especially if you go global. And I think that was originally the plan, like production in Texas, but deliveries global. 500,000 sounded like about right. I mean, Ford sells 1 million F-150 a year just in the US, and I think same thing for one of the GM's programs, and the Ram too. I don't know if the Ram is at 1 million, but if it's not, it's pretty close. So there's plenty of room in the market. But 250 a year seems low. But of course, Tesla has always said, we know the Cybertruck is polarizing in terms of design. So if it's not that popular, we might shift to a more traditional looking pickup truck. So maybe that's still in the plans. But if they nail the Cybertruck, I think people just get over the design, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange because like sometimes I see it and I'm like, oh, that looks okay, and then sometimes I'm like, that's never gonna
So
fly.
this picture is from the event. What do you think now?
So that actually doesn't look bad in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the wiper's crazy, and maybe it's those weird hubcap things.
Yeah, the hubcap, they look like they stick out a lot of the tires.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That looks better than most, but like just some angles make it just look really weird.
It's gonna be like a culture war. This thing, like, it's
Right.
gonna,
It's gonna
like,
be like the dress.
if the internet memes win and like they make it like, if you're driving this, you're a nerd. Like, nowadays, it's not a bad thing to be a nerd, but like whatever is the term that the kids use these days. Mid is the bad thing now, Seth?
Yeah,
Your
mid's
kids were
bad.
telling you mid
Mid's
is bad.
bad.
Okay, so if you're mid for driving a Cybertruck and like this gets around, all right, this will fail. But if you're, because Elon is pushing not for mid, he's pushing for badass. And it's badass electric, and he's not wrong in terms like of the stainless steel finish and everything. You don't care about like scratching it and all that. Like, there's a badness that it look like almost like a tank. Like, there's some badassness to it, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of people are saying it looks like. I didn't have my sensor thing on, but so if that's the side that wins, then I think people are gonna feel bad about driving it. Just like what other car we could use for that, where like people, like, it's known, like the Cube, for example. The Cube, is that a Cube?
Yeah, like Nissan Cube or something.
Yeah, Nissan Cube and like that. Like, people see you in that, you're like, wow. Especially like when it was a new car, so like you knew, like, you went out and
Like,
bought
you
a
got
new
that
car,
on
and that's
purpose.
what
Yeah.
you decide. Yeah, it's not like you don't have any cash and they were selling it for $2,000 on the used sell lot. It was like a new
Right.
car, and you decided to get that. There's a few cars like that, I guess. All right. This was a little bit of a surprise, though. Not really at the same time. Like, to me, it didn't surprise me, but the media jumped on that and were kind of crazy about it. Elon said that Tesla would try, and this is the quote, try a little advertising and see how it goes. That was the exact quote. So Tesla shareholder asked it about the meeting, made the argument that Tesla should push some features through advertising, some features that are lesser known, that are the Roadster looks good on this. It looks good.
Yep.
Some lesser known features, the safety ratings that Tesla is getting, and all that, things that are not as commonly known in the wider public. The price too. Elon himself said that on stage, and that's a good argument. A lot of people still think like a Tesla is super expensive and all that. But right now, we just posted an article with the Model 3, the new rates right now that are coming out on the new inventory. Like, a lease is $384 a month now, starting price. You can get one after the federal tax credit for $35,000. That was the original goal of the Model 3 and everything. So it's not that expensive. So just like advertising that, like pushing that around to advertising, would be a big deal. And so the guy made the argument, and Elon listened, and he was like, yeah, we'll try a little advertising. And Elon has previously said that he hates advertising. He previously boasted about the fact that Tesla doesn't advertise, and he says spend every penny on making the product better. And he basically laughed at other automakers for spending. Like, I had to look for this article, but it was like, I saw Hyundai was like at some point at $4,000 per car in advertising spending. GM at like over 1,000, and like there was a lot of money spent to sell those cars. I think automakers, or other than pharma, I think it's always like pharma and automakers as the biggest ad spenders in the US. That's just in the US, because most other countries don't allow spending on advertising for pharmaceutics.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, so yeah, this, and even though Elon has always said that, I remember him always be still open, like realistic to the fact that once Tesla hits much higher volume of production, they are likely going to have to spend a little bit on advertising. And I think he would have thought that it would have been later on, maybe. And this is coming a little bit sooner than he anticipated. Like, maybe he thought like, once we had like 5 or 10 million units a year, that would make sense, but not at 2 million units. But now, obviously, this year, Tesla's prices had gone down nonstop in order to keep up, for the men to keep up with production. And instead of cutting down on those prices, Tesla could have spent maybe like half the price of those cuts on advertising, and it would have created a demand. We just don't know. Like, it's hard to tell exactly. So now it looks like Elon is willing to test that out, and it would make sense, because like there is some efficient way to advertise. Like, you don't have to spend $4,000 per vehicle. The guy that said it on the annual meeting had the argument that Tesla would have the same advertising budget as Netflix if it would spend $500 per car. Now, to be honest, I don't see that many Netflix ads out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never seen a Netflix ad, I don't think.
Yeah, but the guy said, I see Netflix ad all the time. Like, maybe the argument is like, do you have Netflix?
Right.
Because I have Netflix, so I don't get fed ads. I assume Google and whatnot knows.
Well, we've just said
Instagram.
like 3 times, so we're gonna just have tons of Netflix ads.
Yeah, it's gonna come. No, I would assume they know it, but anyway.
But so wait, the big elephant in the room though, like, what about Twitter? Like, so
yeah, that's what I wrote in the take.
so Twitter, Elon's going around begging advertisers to come back or to use. So how can he exist in 2 different worlds where like advertising is pointless and stupid and you're a loser if you have to advertise, but hey, Twitter has an advertising thing. And basically Elon had to sell a ton of Tesla stock to get Twitter and to buy Twitter, and now it's worth like a fraction of what it was. This could be a mechanism for transferring more money from Tesla to Twitter. Obviously, like, would be a shocking thing if Tesla chose Twitter as a place to advertise.
Yeah, it would be shocking whatsoever, because I don't know about you, but I remove sometimes just to check, I remove my ad blocks on Twitter, but not only that, the ad blocks don't work on them because a lot of money they make through promoted tweets that gets around that. And SpaceX ads are all over the place on Twitter.
Oh, really?
All over the place. And I have Starlink too. So like, why? Like, I don't stop feeding me Starlink ads. I already have it. So
you're actually getting your internet through Starlink. So they could even they know your IP
Well,
address.
that was just this week for like a few days. But for the long, like I had my thing for months now. I bought it months ago. And anyway, so since Elon bought Twitter, that's what has been happening. Now the difference, I guess, Tesla is a public company, SpaceX is a private company. He has a lot more control over SpaceX than he does over Tesla. And yes, obviously, it would look very bad if Tesla has, like, let's say, just for numbers' sakes, like $100 million advertising budget, and they decide to spend like $80 million on Twitter ads. That would look awful, because even Elon on stage right there, he said, like, because that was one of these arguments about when Tesla shareholders ask him the very reasonable question. Well, not at this annual meeting actually, but that was prior to that. They asked him what positive impact, because he said that owning Twitter is going to have a positive impact on Tesla. They asked how, and he basically said that he didn't know how, and then like he scrambled an answer saying like, well, I mean, we're getting a lot more popular on Twitter. Tesla is, my own account is, and that is helping sell Tesla vehicles. It's like, but now this time at the annual meeting, he said, actually, when we do that on Twitter, we kind of preaching to the choir, and I think that he's actually completely right about that. So then even like pushing ads on Twitter about Tesla, I think that's also preaching to the choir, and it wouldn't help. Anyway, we're all saying that to be very self-serving here. We want Tesla to push ads on Electrek instead. That would make just a ton more sense.
And actually, like, here's something. Tesla spent some sort of money. I don't know if they paid up yet, but they spent some sort of money on the Electrek Formula Sun Grand Prix. So,
yeah. So they're already doing it.
They're spending money on Electrek.
Knowing what we spend to have the title sponsor, I don't know how much Tesla spent, to be honest.
$1,000.
But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see Tesla ads show up and see what Tesla can do with that. I mean, obviously, I think they're gonna go more a traditional way, like a lot of like TV ads and maybe like some Instagram stuff and things like that. That's very popular these days.
I don't think they're gonna be traditional.
Yeah.
Maybe in like the Apple traditional, but like Super Bowl ad or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Apple, like on things like Instagram and all that, I don't see Apple spending though. That's interesting. I just realized that.
They spend money on Instagram, I think.
Oh yeah, maybe not in Canada. I don't know. All right, moving on. This was based on our views on all our posts that we did. I did probably like 6 articles on this shareholder meetings, and you would be surprised to know that this was the most popular one by far. So people were really excited by this update to the Tesla bot. So Tesla shared a video update of the program, and personally, I thought it was actually positive. Like, as you know, I've been skeptical of this whole idea, and Elon, this is starting to annoy me so much from Elon, like, because I always thought it was super smart guy, and he is obviously super smart guys, but this is like a cognitive, like, it doesn't register for him, and he was doing it for the longest time on FSD. Or people don't understand the true value of FSD and all that. But obviously, everyone understands that. What they don't believe is that Tesla could deliver it, and they have reasonable doubts about that, which is completely fair. And now he's doing the same thing about the Tesla bot. Like, people don't understand how much value this is going to create once we have a fully functional Tesla bot. Like, we're going to sell like billions of them, and it's going to be he literally said this, billions, and then it's going to be the biggest contributor to Tesla's value long term. Who doesn't understand that? Who doesn't understand that if you have a viable, relatively inexpensive humanoid robot that can do a bunch of different tasks, everyone understands the value in that. Like, obviously, it would have tremendous value. What people don't believe is Tesla's ability to deliver on it. And again, fair concerns about that. Now, at least with this new update does with the footage and everything, it shows some progress. So why I say that it's not as much of a sideshow anymore is one that, it's the progress over a short period of time. So the last update was in September of last year, so about like 8 months or so. In 8 months, 9 months, it's decent progress. Like that was 8 months ago. Like that thing that could barely walk, could like wave, and that's about it. And then they had the second prototype at the same time too, but that one couldn't even walk, couldn't do much of anything, had to be like propped up on stage like that, like terrible. And now that's what we get here. I don't know if the video is going to work with this jumping. Oh, not too bad. Okay. So yeah, the walking is slow, but it looks very stable to me. Like like with the swinging of the arms and everything, it looks stable. This is a quick video of the motor torque control. Like, somewhat impressive, but we've seen that before from other companies. It's not something that's crazy. This is interesting, the discovery of the environment. So that's the software part of it that we're gonna get into later, because that's one of the biggest synergy that Tesla is doing. This is what the impressive part. Like, now this is a render, obviously, but we're gonna see. So they're not quite there, especially speed-wise. But the ends, we see great improvement for Tesla on the ends. Like the gripping of this object here is actually very impressive. There are two different shape of object, and obviously with different tensions. Let it go once you are already like this. This is quick, but it might look not that much, but this is actually very impressive. The second part here, how he dropped the object like that, like at that speed. This is not nothing. And now Tesla has 5 of them. It looks like 5 prototypes going on. So I see some like significant improvements over a short period of time. So I'll have to give them that. Obviously, so on the hardware side of things, and that I believe since the beginning, I think Tesla has a great advantage of leveraging everything it has done for electric vehicles. Because when you think about it, a humanoid robot, there's no like on the hardware side of things, there's no incredible engineering challenge to overcome in order to make it happen. We have a lot of the technology already exists. It just needs to be adapted and packaged into a humanoid format. And yes, a lot of Tesla's power electronic advantage, a lot of Tesla's motors, actuators advantage, battery advantage, all that, they can leverage that into a humanoid robot, I'm sure. Now, the grand scheme of things that Tesla wants to do, Elon in particular is thinking about, is like, we are developing the full self-driving through a more general AI approach, and we can just take that and put it into a humanoid robot, and the humanoid robot is going to be able to navigate the world around it. Like, you cannot take the software in a cruise vehicle and put it into a humanoid robot, it's not going to work because it's seeing its environment into a very narrow framework, which is a road. The Teslas, the way they're approaching FSD, it's more of an AI detecting its general environment as a whole. So that's true. But obviously it's not working super well right now on the car itself. So it's hard to see Tesla just having a smooth transition into a robot. So in my take on it, if you guys have read it or not, but my view is that I can see it work now. We see that Tesla is taking somewhat seriously. We've seen a lot of progress in a short period of time. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be a useful product super soon, because I don't think that the FSD is going to be a useful product super soon. But looking at the timeline, at everything that happened in FSD, I could see Tesla having a useful humanoid robot within about 3 years. I'm sure you have a counterpoint to that.
Yeah, so I wasn't impressed by the demo.
No.
Like, they're obvious. So this was not live. This is all, video. They could have, this could all be, rendered, but I don't think it was.
Well, he said it wasn't, so that would be a big risk if he lied about that.
Yeah. I don't think it was rendered, but I think, you can stage robots to do a lot of stuff. And we know that Tesla stages technology demonstrations. It's
True.
not just so the walking thing, like, there's wind-up toys that walk. Like, it's not rocket science to get a robot to walk.
Yeah, but this is probably like 100 pounds plus robot, more likely more than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
It's harder, a lot harder.
I couldn't do it myself, so who am I to say like that's not impressive? But you see like the robots at the what's that place, Boston Dynamics. They're doing like ballet and flips and breakdancing and.
Yeah, but it's different. Like the whole goal is different than what,
right.
Well, I'm sure that Boston Dynamics has like a long-term goal of that, and they want to build directly. But what you see the robots doing now, it's not. They're doing it because that's what they're trying to do with it. Tesla is not trying to do that necessarily.
Yeah. So, I would just say that, like, I wasn't as wowed by the technology demonstration that we saw. It would be cool if that was live, or, like the picking up the thing, that the hand thing for me seemed like it could have been just a one-off. The engineers seemed as surprised as anybody at, when it accomplished like the task. They were like, whoa, like. So
that's not necessarily bad.
No, it's good to be enthusiastic, but it's also like that shouldn't be surprising or anything. Anyway, I'm just not nearly as impressed. I don't think 3 years is. I have no idea, but I don't think 3 years is realistic.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think 3 years they're gonna have a useful robot, so that the robot is gonna be able to start taking over some simple tasks that. I think the economics of it is going to be useful, meaning that the robot is going to probably cost like $100,000, whatever. But like the $100,000 with the cost of operation is going to make sense for a bunch of certain tasks. I don't think it's going to be a robot that anyone's going to buy and then it just does things around your house just yet. But for certain tasks, especially like industrial, commercial tasks, I think it's going to start making sense. And then long term, you can bring the cost down and include more and more tasks into it.
Will they be able to carry Elon around?
Like, why would they need to do that?
I don't know.
I think they have a limit of 50 pounds, so unless he loses a lot of weight. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. All right, that's pretty much it for the meeting for now. But we have plenty of other news to discuss. It's already 40 minutes in. Oh boy, okay, we're gonna have a long show this week maybe, but we're gonna try to have some time for your questions. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comment section. I see a bunch of discussions going on right now in the questions, so that always makes it a little bit more difficult for us at the end. So if you do have a question over specific subjects you want us to discuss, please put question or subjects before it. That's gonna make it a lot easier for us at the end of the show. Thank you very much. And if you do enjoy the show, please give us a thumbs up, a share, a follow, a notification button, all these things. It takes a second to do and it helps the show a ton. Like if you can send it to your friends, you can put it on the big TV and sit down your grandma in front of it. She's gonna love it. Anything you can do to help the show out, we appreciate it a ton. If you're listening on the podcast app, you can give us a 5-star review too at the end. Takes a second to do, helps the show a ton. It's free to do too. All right, still on Tesla though. Before we move on, we have this exclusive here. Well, some other companies, some other publication got after too. But Elon sent an email to Tesla managers this week to tell them that he wants to oversee all new hires at Tesla. Well, oversee. He wants to. Well, let me just quote it directly. No one can join Tesla, even as a contractor, until you receive my email approval. So he specifically wants to approve every new hire at Tesla, which is about 30,000 new hires a year, by the way, on average in the last few years. So obviously not very realistic. So what I think, his claim in the email is that he wants to gain a better understanding of Tesla's hiring process, or Tesla's new hires, I guess. Obviously, the effective thing here is that it's going to slow down greatly the new hires in an attempt to control cost, I guess. So it's just, I think it's a way to do some kind of low-level hiring freeze without saying that you're doing an hiring freeze. Like that's what it felt like to me.
Mm-hmm.
But Tesla's still hiring, Tesla's still posting jobs and everything. It's just basically, Elon just made it a lot more difficult for the Tesla recruiters out there. So good luck, Tesla recruiters. I feel your pain right now. Recruiters and managers are trying to hire. Oh yeah, we had two interesting news about Tesla potential new factories. So we've been taking a close look at Tesla factories, new factories. I mean, because Tesla is still sticking to this goal of having a production capacity of 20 million cars by the end of the decade. And we know that they're going to need about, at this point, it's going to be 6 or 7 new factories that needs to be announced, more than including the Gigafactory Mexico. 1 new factory in Asia, at least, 1 new factory in Europe. And now in Asia, it looks like India, it might be in the running. So if you've been following what Tesla and India relationship over the last few years, India is the biggest auto market that Tesla is not in right now. But they have been in discussion to get in for years and years and years. It's just that Tesla wanted to do the same thing it did in China, which is we start importing vehicle into the country. We start establishing service centers, cells, superchargers, and we test out the market. And eventually we build out a factory there. And it was a very successful approach for Tesla in China. So they want to replicate it. But India was like, no. India was like, we have crazy import tariffs that's going to make your imports of vehicle not successful. So what we want you to do instead is build a local factory, invest in jobs, and then you can sell your cars in the country. And Tesla was like, we prefer doing the import first. And they had to try to do a few deals where they would cut those import tariffs for electric vehicles that would allow Tesla to do that. They never came to a deal. Now this week, Tesla sends a bunch of executives in India to meet with government officials there. And according to government officials, Tesla proposed to build a factory in the country. So it looks like Tesla is flinching for the first time and is looking to actually go forward with a factory, which obviously makes sense as long as India was staying strong on their position. Tesla was just not going to give up on the Indian market. It's just too big of a market. I mean, recently, I think India became the most populous country in the world. So not the richest one, obviously, but growing fast. So it makes sense to want to get into the country. And they have more than decent manufacturing capability now in India. That's they're attempting to rival China. So it would make sense to build a factory there and maybe do export too. Actually, the report did mention potential exports. And then the other potential factory, though a factory wasn't actually mentioned, a significant investment was mentioned, is in France. So earlier this week, Elon went to Paris to meet with President Macron. And they had this meeting. And then when they came out of the meeting, Elon told local news that he was looking that it was hopeful that Tesla would make a significant investment in France in the future. So France was actually in the running for Tesla's first European factory. There was discussion about the Alsace, but that could have been on either way, on the French or on the German side of things. And then Tesla obviously ended up in Berlin instead. But France was in the running, and a lot of people are like, yeah. So right here, like the top comment that we had on the article, I doubt Mr. C. Trumley, I guess. I doubt France is a real contender. Musk is famously anti-union. France is heavily unionized, and even where they're not, it's common to have stringent employment contract that make it hard for employers to act on a whim, as Musk loves to do, which sounds correct to me. But at the same time, is France really more pro-union than Germany? Like, they're both extremely pro-union. I think another comment said something that I don't know if we're going to be able to find it, but said something like France and Germany are just as pro-union. It's just that French like to complain more about it, which sounds about right to me. So, so I don't see that as a real hurdle. I think if they put those tax cuts in front of him, they're going to do it. And where else in Europe, Seth, do you think they could do something anyway? Like UK, it looks like no one wants to touch the UK because of the Brexit.
Right.
So
they
what
had
else?
some operations in Belgium or the Netherlands?
The Netherlands.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess like, if you want to save some money, Eastern Europe, Poland would probably be less expensive. Labor is a little bit less expensive there. It's still in the EU. Places like Bulgaria. Bulgaria doesn't have a good like younger population, but prices are also low there. Romania as well.
Yeah, makes sense. We'll see. Moving on from Tesla. This morning, GM announced a big upgrade for the Silverado EV work truck. It's going to be the first version of the electric pickup truck to launch this spring. The range got way up, 50 miles up. That's not a small upgrade. So when it was first unveiled last year, they were talking about 400 miles of range for the Silverado EV WT or work truck. And now they are talking about an EPA estimated. So it looks like they had this tested with the EPA. Otherwise, they would say like GM estimated range. And they're talking about 450 miles on a full charge. So it's a lot more than the competition. The highest for Lightning is at 320. The highest Rivian R1T is at 328. So this is not even close.
Not even close.
It's a big deal. We starting to think that they just stuck the GMC Hummer EV pack in there, and that's about it.
I think I mean that would make sense because that's a 200 plus kilowatt hour battery.
And it's not the most like efficient looking truck out there too.
No,
it kind of looks to me a bit like the Hummer. Like like if the Hummers has little curves,
right. I mean, what it's really good for, or will be good for, with that kind of range, is towing. Like you can tow for 250 miles or something.
That was my point in the take here. It's
Yeah.
like, because even if you have that range, like if you have a 300 miles range, like if there's not that much, but because towing is most likely going to do that at the very least. So now you have 450. That's still 225 miles of range. That's still like afternoon of driving basically. So I don't know, but this is good news. This is coming this spring, and the work truck, which is the first version of the Silverado EV, also is going to have a 350 miles range version of it. So it's going to be like a little bit less expensive one, because brace yourself for the price. Like this is like the time of like the for $40,000 Lightning and all that. That's all gone and everything. It's going to be the same for the Silverado, I think.
Yeah, I think they plan to get them under the $80,000 tax.
That's the obvious one. Yeah. All right, this new unveiling from Ford. Ford is getting annoying right now with this. This is annoying me with these cool little fun vehicle they're unveiling for the European market, and that's it. They unveil that for the European market, but no word about bringing that to Europe. And that's the case here with this. All right, Tornio Courier. I think that's Courier.
Courier is the English. Yeah.
So it's this small multi-activity utility van vehicle type thing. So you can see it. So we have a few pictures here that of the interior. Nothing too crazy, but a lot of utility.
I really don't understand why nobody will make one of these for the U.S. Like it feels like it would be a super big, all of North America. It would be a huge hit. So Hyundai has the Kia Soul. They don't sell that in the US, the electric version. but the gas version sells like crazy, and it's a very similar size as this. I don't understand why they don't make an electric version. I mean, the electric version in the US, and I don't know why Ford is not selling this thing in the US. I think it would do really well.
Yeah, it's an interesting looking vehicle for sure, and it looks like it's very based around utility. So there's definitely a market for that. But right now they're talking about Europe in 2024 next year. No word about the US. No word about pricing. But we expect that they're going to try to keep that low, especially if you look at the motor, which is probably the only spec that they released. They didn't release any range or anything like that. But the motor is 100 kilowatts. So
yeah, that's really low.
Yeah, it lets me know that they are looking at probably the low end of the market here.
I compare everything to the Chevy Bolt motor, and the Bolt motor is 150 kilowatts. So yeah, it's 30. It's 60, 2/3 the power of a Chevy Bolt.
And that's probably a vehicle that's like 30% bigger too.
Right, at least.
Rimac was in the news this week with the Nevera with a bunch of records that they broke with their performance car here. Let me just list a few for fun because there's a bunch of them. How many? It was like a ridiculous number.
Yeah, it's a whole page.
Yes, that's 23 records in a single day on the bringing the car to the racetrack, including the fastest 0 to 249 miles per hour. So I think the top speed too, 249. I think that's a new top speed. So that's one
for electric cars. I think the Bugatti.
I cannot read this.
Chiron goes like 300.
Can I read this? It's not. No, it doesn't work like that. Let me just zoom in a bit. There you go. No, doesn't work either. Okay. Do we have them listed somewhere else? So that's 0 to 249 miles per hour, which is 400 kilometers an hour. That was in 21.3 seconds, which doesn't sound like much, but it is fast. The 0 to the stopping distance, okay, no, we don't list that. 0 to 60 acceleration in 1.85 seconds. Oh no, that was the old one. Okay, now it's clocking at 1.74. That's crazy. And interestingly, that's someone asked Musk on Twitter if the new Roadster is going to beat 1.74, and Elon's response was LOL. So we assume that the Roadster is going to beat that, but obviously the Roadster with the SpaceX package, like it's basically cheating. Like you for sure you would be faster than that, but you would be faster, but you could only probably do that in a close course. Like you're not going to be at a red light and pull out like rear-facing colder thruster and just blast it in the person behind you. That's just a lawsuit in the making right there. But yeah, the Nevera is not really a competitor to the Roadster. We're talking about a car that literally costs 10 times a Roadster, most likely.
And of course, the Roadster doesn't exist. So
yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Oh, well, the Nevera doesn't exist for 90% of the 99.9999% of the population. Like,
that's a good
just
point.
An unattainable vehicle. Even people that can afford it are like, do you really want a 2.3 million vehicle? Like it's just for the racetrack, basically. You don't. It's a street legal vehicle, which is impressive. But are you going to park downtown on the street a $2.3 million car? Maybe not.
I feel like there's an opportunity for Rimac to make more of those. Like, make it not insane. Just like 0 to 200 and I don't know, like 2.5 seconds. Like you still have a cool car, it just doesn't like break your neck.
They're gonna go down market, but it's not gonna be like a Ferrari or anything like that. Like right. They're just merged with Bugatti, so
right.
You get a feeling of what they're gonna do with the Rimac brand. They're gonna do like a Bugatti kind of thing where it's gonna be a lot of 7 figures vehicles, I think.
Yeah. All right, to the questions. I starred them to make it easier. Hey, what's up, gentlemen? Quick question about Cybertruck. Will it start at $39K? And if not, will that hurt demand? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no, and yes, because yes, it's gonna hurt them in. Like, there's
Yeah.
just some people are just not gonna be able to afford it. I posted an article actually today about my guesses for the Cybertruck pricing, and I think the single motor one, which was the one starting at $40,000, is just, it might be completely removed, or if it's not removed, it's going to be much later. So like 2026, 2027, maybe something like that. So don't hold your breath for it. So I think it's likely going to start at $55,000, and then there's going to be the tri motor. That's probably going to be $75,000 at least. And then the question is like that quad motor one. The top one is probably going to be the first one. Like, you would think over $80,000, but at the same time, you think that Tesla gonna want to try to keep that tax credit opportunity. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think 80,000 is probably going to be the starting point.
Yeah.
This year.
Oh, the starting point.
This year and next year, and then they start coming down after that. They'll probably be all-wheel drive this year. You're right. They want to keep the tax credit. So yeah, I think if you don't have 80,000 in your bank account, you're not going to get this thing. I agree, but all those people who pre-ordered it in 2019 thought they were going to get an amazing truck for less than a Model 3. A lot of things have changed since 2019. So, and I don't think Tesla or Elon was ever. They've never said like the $39,000 one was going to be available at launch. They always said. Do you think it will hurt demand? Yeah, we talked about that. What percentage of cobalt is used in petroleum refining?
Petroleum. I didn't even know that was the case.
That's not our expertise.
Yeah. If it burns stuff, like, we don't know much about it on Electrek.
All right. Shifting gears a little bit in regard to the end of the bolt, do you think the lack of a small electric car options will hurt the transition to electrification? It's not going to help. And I don't think the Equinox is like the same class of car. And I don't know that GM's going to be selling a $30,000 one anytime soon. I think it's more like small cars are like important, but like also low cost was kind of the big deal. We'll see. Maybe the Leaf. I can't recommend a Leaf because of the Chatamo, and there's just really nothing else out there. I hope the Equinox comes in low priced, and we know GM's not opposed to losing money on each car, so we'll see. Kwame Ama, despite Ford Lightnings and Hummer EVs' larger batteries and range, they're expensive and require a lot of electricity.
Yeah, but we don't have as big of a problem with that because we know that the grid is also getting cleaner at the same time. So obviously, like, I'm a big Terra fan. Like, I'm a user Terra fan because it's an electric vehicle, but it's a super efficient electric vehicle that doesn't require a lot of electricity to run it. But I'm not some kind of absolutist that like, all right, everything's got to be super efficient. Like, if you have a Hummer EV at home, I'm not going to judge you. If your home has solar power, like solar on the rooftop, then I'm like, yeah, all right, you're good. Like, the only thing that's bad about it is like, all right, you're carrying a big battery a lot of times that you're not actually going to use because it has 400 miles, this thing. So that's a bit dumb, but at the same time, like, if you do, like, every month you do a 400-mile trip, then it's kind of can be useful too. So as long as you power it with renewable energy, no issue with that.
All right, Stu, who is the market for Tesla's Cybertruck? Crypto bros and long-term investors?
So that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's gonna be this cultural war happening with the Cybertruck of like, is the Cybertruck cool or not cool? And Stu is in the not cool side, obviously.
Clearly. Yeah, and I kind of feel like I've fallen into the not cool side. I had a Cybertruck reservation and I gave it up, but this was like, I don't know, 4 years ago. But I don't know if I'm ever going to see a Rivian, so maybe that was a dumb move. Hey, Fred, last week you mentioned that Rivian might have a demand problem because their delivery estimates are getting shorter. Can it be that they're ramping up and executing on production?
Yeah, but they claim a 70,000 vehicle reservation backlog at the same time. So if you have, I think they are having some problems having people to change their reservation into orders in some markets, obviously, because some of the reservation are in markets like mine where they're not selling it. So yeah, in markets where they're already selling, they already have service center. I think they might be having some demand problems because you can get one delivered in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I also think they're throwing some people who are online under the bus and not making their vehicles as quick
Mm-hmm.
and getting the higher value from the new people. But whatever. All right, a little bit of Twitter stuff here. Elon, the free speech crusader, except when Turkey's president Erdogan asked him to censor. I did find that a little bit off-putting, especially his response.
But
If you're going to be a free
sorry.
speech absolutist, you got to be a free speech absolutist, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I read the official Twitter response that made a little bit more sense, where the Twitter response went into all the court orders that they were receiving and everything, and they are fighting the battles that they think they have a chance of winning. But there was one court order that there was no way of, like, they were going to shut down Twitter in Turkey if they didn't agree, and that was the tweets that we're talking about here. And also, I think this is a little bit like, I know, like, they are using the Elon, like, free speech absolutist as an excuse here, but I think Twitter tried their best on that one and just couldn't do it because they were the last one to do it. Everybody else did it before that. Everybody, like Facebook and all the other network, they did it. It's just Twitter tried to resist, and then at the end they were like, all right, it's either resisting or Twitter is shutting down in Turkey.
Yep. Joel Sapp, I don't think Elon hates ads that are honest, but I think that they can make an engineering company lazy. Do you make a compelling product or keep a so-so product and advertise more?
That's a good argument.
Yeah, I
I
think
never
that.
really saw it like that, but yeah. I can see that happening. I don't think with the Tesla culture around engineering and manufacturing and all that, I don't see really, like, a little bit advertising, like, doing much. But
I mean, that's the whole, like, Elon saying ads are propaganda.
yeah,
We're looking for propaganda people. Like,
yeah. Well, that was PR, but
right, PR, whatever. All right, question. Considering that it has been established that Tesla faked the first FSD video, wouldn't it be prudent to be more skeptical of the bots video?
well, that was your point, I think.
Yeah.
Now, fake is a bit of an exaggeration, I think. Like, it's just like the video was an unedited video all the way through. It's just that they ran that scenario a few times in order to wake. So that I would assume that that's the same allegation that could happen with the bots, which could be true. To be honest, that could be true. But uh, this might sound like naive on my part, but the way Elon made it sound like, and I sort of believing on that, and you guys know I'm not super quick to believe Elon most of the time, but he said that like that he told the team, like, last minute, like, I want a video of where we're at with the Tesla bot, like, last night, and they put that video together last night of where they're at. So, and the video, like, is not that impressive, like said too. Is you have to, like, look at comparison of where they were at 8 months ago and now. I think that's the most impressive part. But so yeah, I think that's really much like a video that he threw together last minute on this. I believe him on that.
All right. Question. Autopilot still seems far away to me due to the corner cases, but maybe AI and the Optimus becomes useful practical sooner than autopilot because it can be put to use in a controlled environment. Thoughts?
Well, obviously, I think Tesla is going to be using it first. Like, they're going to be like, there's a major labor crisis right now. Try to hire people for labor jobs, like in factories and everything. It's super hard right now to find competent people to do that. So Elon that's what he's thinking about here. Obviously, like, he's not advertising it too much because it sounds bad for coming from the CEO of a company. He's like, I'm looking to replace you, you people. It's like, ugh, it's not something that sounds good. But obviously, is going to do that. Now, I'm not. People shouldn't be scared by that, obviously, because, like, any kind of automation that happen, like, yes, it does affect some job, but it creates other job, creates other opportunities and all that all the time. So it's gonna, like, Tesla. I don't see Tesla. Well, there's gonna be these usual, like, wave of firing because of the efficiency in the hiring and every time. Tesla's going to keep growing their head count even with robots. Like, it's just That's how it works, really.
All right. Steve Sutton says Boston Dynamic has been in business for 10 years. Tesla has been doing this for about 10 months. And look at the progress they're making. That's a good
But they're
point.
not doing the same thing. That's the
Right.
thing. Like Boston Dynamics, they are like, it's in the name. Dynamics, they are doing like the robot, the robotics around robots. Tesla, as they are thinking about the AI and like what we can put that in that's going to be the most useful. They're like, yeah, a humanoid robot. So like, let's build a humanoid robots around our generalized AI to see what it can do. I think that's a completely different approach.
All right. Mr. Turkey Neck is in agreement with Seth. Robots and Twitter are unfortunate distractions in the fortunes of Musk and Tesla. It's not proof of his pure genius, is it? Yeah, I don't think that was your point or whatever.
Yeah, that's not really what I'm saying. I mean, Twitter, like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know what's happening with me, but I'm kind of turning around on some of the Elon things. Like I've been really down on Twitter for a long time now. I kind of see a glimmer of a hope with Twitter recently, and I just did now too with the robots. So I don't know.
You know, they're not paying their rent or anything like that, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't pay my rent in San Francisco too, to be honest.
Why?
I'd be out of there. Last time I went to San Francisco was not impressed at all.
Okay.
Obviously, pay your rent, people.
And I'm skipping over a lot because there's a lot of conversation, and I didn't check the recent stuff. But Mr. Turkey Neck's back. Ford will stick with the e-transit configs, which cover a broad span of transport requirements and possibilities. Why introduce a comparable model from the Euro market to cannibalize your own brand? Just the e-transit is not something that consumers really think about. Like, you know, obviously the van life scene is ripe for the pickings, but this thing looks more like a fun consumery vehicle, like a mini Range Rover or something, and I think it would be really popular.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as the e-transit at all, I think.
Yeah. All right. So that's all the comments.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, this week for this week's episode to join us in this little adventure that we do every week to recap all the most interesting electric vehicle news of the week. I think it was a fun one. I hope you liked it, and we're gonna see